or interesting. I don't know. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Rayleigh Bradshaw. I am an aspiring author of YA historical fiction, currently working on my debut novel Untamable, and today I am bringing you a tag video. I was tagged by Christy Schuler to do this. Thank you so much, Christy. If you haven't watched her channel, you should definitely go and do it because I cannot get enough of that girl, let me tell you. But the tag that she tagged me in is the author trivia tag. Basically, I'm supposed to give you 10 random facts about me. So this is like Rayleigh Bradshaw trivia, I guess. I don't know how interesting this will really be to anybody, but I think it'll be really fun to film. So we're just gonna dive right in. Random fact number 1, I come from a family of 8 and I am the 5th of 6 kids. So I grew up with 4 sisters and 1 brother, and my brother was the oldest, so don't feel too bad for him growing up with all these girls because he had a whole army of slaves, let me tell you. We would have done anything for him, at least I would have, because I was one of the youngest, and I always looked up to him. I thought he was the coolest, handsomest, smartest, most talented guy alive, and I still think pretty highly of him. He's a pretty cool guy. I really loved growing up in a big family. My siblings and I were all about 2 years apart from each other, so we were close enough in age that a lot of our friends overlapped as we were growing up. So we had a lot of the same friends. We were really close. To this day, my sisters are my best friends in the whole world, and I would rather spend time with them than anybody else on the planet. Like, if given the choice to meet, I don't know, someone famous or to go spend a weekend with my sisters, it would be my sisters every single time. I love my sister. Random fact number 2, I have a crippling, intense, very real fear of dolls. I can't begin to describe to you how terrifying dolls are to me. And I've learned to manage it as I've grown older, at least I'd like to think that I do, but other people have to be in the room. If I'm alone, I will completely lose my mind. And I think this fear came when I was younger because I used to love dolls. When I was a little kid, there was nothing I wanted more in the world than the Josephina American Girl doll. And I finally got her, or she was like a knockoff brand, I think, so she wasn't really the Josephina. Her face was a little bit longer, but she had all the same clothes and, you know, everything else, so it was good enough for me. But I really loved this Josephina doll up until one night my family was watching these old black and white Twilight Zone reruns, and there was one called Talkie Tina.
My name is Talkie Tina. And you'd better be nice to me.
I don't remember being that scared when I actually watched the film. We were all laughing because my family laughs at everything. I come from a very boisterous family. Everybody was laughing and making fun of how cheesy it was and everything, and I was laughing along with them. But I started having nightmares after that my Josephina doll was coming to life and trying to kill me. And I swear sometimes I would be alone in my bedroom with her and I would see her just move. I loved dolls up until the idea was presented to me that they could be sentient, and then all of a sudden, like, my life was ruined because now anytime I see dolls, really any kind of statue or anything with eyes, it terrifies me. Let me tell you, I'm home alone right now and just talking about this is like creeping me out and I'm getting goosebumps and I'm afraid something's gonna like come and get me. So I'm gonna change the subject now. Afraid of dolls, moving on. Random fact number 3. After I graduated from high school, I was living at home for a few years and just working, and my dad was always bringing home like junky cars that he got for really cheap so that we could all have cars, because I mean, when you've got 6 kids and they all have places to go, you know, he would provide for us any way he could, so he'd bring home these really junky cars that he bought I don't know where for like $100 a piece, you know. And so for a while I was driving this beat up old Buick that was so hideously ugly, my sisters and I decided that it would look so much cooler if we painted it. And so we went to town. We got some spray paints and we painted that thing like you would not believe. There was like cheetah print and zebra stripes, and there was a giraffe door, and then even like the little gas door where you pump gas into it. That was like a ladybug, and it was silver and shiny all over. It was just crazy. However, I did grow up in Portland, Oregon, so to be honest, crazy cars like that are not that unusual. There's a lot of them around there, but they still catch the eye, and they would catch the eye even more when I would just break down in the middle of an intersection, which happened very often. That car was constantly breaking down on me, and in my mind it was just like, oh, this is just what cars do. You break down in the middle of the intersection, some nice people get out of their cars and help push you to the side of the road. That's where you call your dad. He sends the tow truck, and the tow truck picks you up and takes you to the shop where the car is repaired, so it'll last another 2 weeks before it breaks down again. So yeah, that was my early adulthood, was driving around this crazy car and breaking down and having complete strangers, you know, help me push it to the side of the road all the time. It was good times, what can I say? Random fact number 4. As if you didn't think I was dorky enough already, I am guilty of having attended a barbershop summer camp. And when I say barbershop, I don't mean like cutting hair. No. I mean, like, have you ever heard of a barbershop quartet? You know, they're in like old movies a lot of the time.
Light a rose, I'm home again, Rose.
To get the sun back in the sky.
Yes, those cheesy quartets. I went to a barbershop singing summer camp. And that's not even the worst part. The worst part of it is that I loved it. It was so much fun. Barbershop singing is, you wouldn't think it, but barbershop singing is actually very addictive. There's something about singing with other people and getting the harmonies just right where it just gives you chills. It literally sends chills up your spine, and it releases endorphins, and you're just like, oh man, that sound is amazing. Let's see if we can make another one. I used to sing in a choir when I was in high school, and the choir teacher had his son-in-law come and substitute sometimes. He was a barbershop singer, and so he knew a bunch of famous barbershop singers in the Portland area, and he used to teach us what are called barbershop tags after choir sometimes, like anyone who wanted to learn. And so I would go and learn with a couple other kids. And a barbershop tag is basically, it's just the one line of a song where the chords are like the most intense and the most fun to sing. And you just learn just those tags, just the most fun part of every song. And then you just like sing them with other barbershop people. And so anybody who sings barbershop knows like a few tags, and they've got these tags up their sleeves, so whenever they meet other people who sing barbershop, they'll just start a tag and then other people will join. I feel like a lot of people who sing barbershop, you don't know about it because they know that most people think it's dorky, and so they won't admit to it unless they find out it's something that you like too, and then they'll be like, oh my gosh, we should totally sing some tags together. And I feel like it's this like grassroots movement where nobody knows about it unless they're in the know. So it's hard to find other people in your area who also sing barbershop, but like that was so important to me when I was in college. Like, oh, there's gotta be other people around here who sing barbershop, and like I'd find all the people who sing and we would sing tags together. We would literally have like tag nights where we just get together to sing tags, and it was really fun. I know it sounds so dorky, and it really is, but it was so much fun too. And so there was one summer I was living at home, and it was the summer after I graduated high school, I think, and I had some friends who sang barbershop, and they knew that I did too, and they called me, and it was like this like secret deal where they were just like, hey, have you ever heard of Harmony Explosion? And I was like, no, what's that? And they were like, it's this barbershop singing camp up in Tacoma, Washington, and they were like, it starts tomorrow, and we can get you some tickets. And I was like, no way! And they were like, yeah. And so they worked out this deal where I could come even though I hadn't signed up ahead of time and all this stuff. And so I literally like printed off the music that I needed to learn for camp that day, and then left, and like my mom drove me to the train station, and I literally had to run to catch my train, and I felt like a heroine in a book. And it was the first time I'd ever ridden on a train. It was so exciting, and I had like all these music papers like clutched to my chest because I had just printed them out, and it was raining. Oh my gosh, it was the most romantic moment of my life. Running to catch a train with music papers clutched to my chest, rain falling, and dragging a suitcase behind me. It was awesome. And then the whole train ride to Tacoma, it was like a 3 or 4 hour train ride. I was trying really hard to learn this music that everybody else was going to know and that I was expected to know as soon as I got there. And so we stayed at the Puget Sound Music College or something like that. I can't remember what it was called, but oh my gosh, it was so fun. And I spent, I don't even know how long it was. It was either a week or it was just a weekend. I can't remember, but it was really fun. I just learned a bunch of barbershop songs with a bunch of people, and I was surprised how many nerdy kids there are out there just like me who wanted to go to a barbershop singing camp and who had been going for years. It was like this big family and they all knew each other and they're like, oh yeah, I've been coming since I was 12. Like, oh my gosh, it was crazy. It was so fun. And my husband, when he found out that I had attended a barbershop singing camp, was embarrassed for me. And you can be embarrassed for me too, but I don't care. I'm proud of who I am. Random fact number 5. I speak Portuguese fluently because I lived in Brazil for a year and a half. I moved there by myself. I did not speak the language at all. I think I knew one word, and that was probably bom dia, which just means good morning. But yeah, I flew there and I spent 9 weeks in a center learning Portuguese. Anybody else who's ever learned a second language knows that 9 weeks is not enough time to become fluent in a language or to even speak it very well and carry on a conversation. It's just enough to get a basic grasp of the structure of the language and to kind of learn a few conjugations, some verbs. But basically from that center I was sent to live with a roommate who was Brazilian from São Paulo, and she did not speak a word of English. I could barely speak a word of Portuguese, and she was the only person in the whole world who I had to talk to. And so I remember the first night that I got there, we went into our apartment and we were sitting there at our table and she was out of food, and so the only thing on this shelf was like she had these little, I can't remember what they're called. They look like little tiny pieces of toast that are so stale that they're crunchy, basically. And so we're sitting there eating those, just crunching on them really loudly, and we couldn't talk to each other because we couldn't speak each other's language. I just remember feeling like this is so incredibly awkward. Like, we're gonna be together all the time because she was supposed to show me around and like teach me the ropes and help me learn the language and everything. And we're just sitting there just like crunching, and it was totally like that moment in Nacho Libre. And I tried to talk to her and I tried to ask her, so what do you like to do? But my conjugations were all wrong, and it was basically like, what to do you like? In Portuguese, the inflection of your voice makes the difference between a statement and a question, and I hadn't like learned how to make a question with my voice yet, and so it sounded like a statement. So I was like, what to do you like? And she just went, huh? And I was so embarrassed that I was just like, never mind. And then we just sat there in silence, crunching on our toast. And it was like that for the first like several weeks that I lived in Brazil. I just had to trust her that she knew what to do, and like I trusted her as she was teaching me the money system and helping me buy groceries, and it was pretty crazy. I had no one to speak English with. For the year and a half that I lived in Brazil, I really didn't speak English at all with anybody. On occasion, I would meet somebody who could speak English and they would want to practice with me, so I would like help them, but that was rare. For the most part, I spoke Portuguese exclusively for that year and a half that I lived there, and by the time I left, I was completely fluent in Portuguese, and my accent was good enough that most people just assumed I was Brazilian when they talked to me. Every once in a while, they would detect a little bit of an accent, and they'd be like, are you from the South? Or a lot of time they'd be like, are you from Argentina? Or they would try to figure out where I was from, but most of the time they couldn't guess that I was American, which made me pretty happy. I wish that I could say my Portuguese is still that good, but alas, there are not a whole lot of people for me to practice my Portuguese with around here. So that's gonna be one of my goals next year probably, is to brush up on my Portuguese and try to find more opportunities to use it. Alright, random fact number 6. Pretty much as soon as I moved back to the United States after living in Brazil, I was in need of a job, and a friend of mine hooked me up with a job that she said was great, and taking her word for it, I applied for the job, got it, and I moved myself, all by myself, alone again, to Texas. and I was dropped off in the middle of a parking lot by a pest control truck who had picked me up from the airport last minute because whoever had arranged to pick me up wasn't there. And then I spent the entire summer as a door-to-door salesman selling pest control. Yep, I was that person. I'm so sorry for anybody who lives in Texas and regularly gets 1,000,000,001 door-to-door salesmen knocking on their doors. I'm sorry that I was one of them. But yeah, that was definitely one of the hardest jobs of my entire life, but it was awesome as well. I learned so much about sales, and I learned a lot about myself and a lot about hard work and dedication. I was the only woman on my sales team who stayed the entire summer. There were other women who kind of came and went, but it was a really challenging job, and a lot of the men didn't stay very long either. So I was really proud of myself that I managed to stick out the entire summer, and I was able to support myself for an entire semester of college without having to work, just based off of what I'd earned doing door-to-door sales. So suffice it to say, I am no stranger to rejection. I have had doors slammed in my face. I've been told that I was sent from the devil and all kinds of crazy things you would not believe. But I feel like that's a job everyone should try at least once, just because you really develop a thick skin, I gotta tell you. And you learn how to develop a thick skin without becoming like bitter and mean, but still like pleasant and still finding ways to enjoy life. And one of the biggest and most valuable things I think that I learned from my summer of doing door-to-door sales was how to be positive when things are really hard, and how to pick myself up, how to motivate myself when it feels like everything is trying to drag me down. Yeah, so it was a really great experience. Definitely, it was super hard. Probably the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was great. Oh, and about midway through the summer, my mom decided she wanted to join me. So my mom actually came and flew to Texas and lived with me in an apartment in Texas, and we did summer sales together, which was so fun because my mom is just a blast and a half. Growing up, she was always more fun than I was. She still is. She's a way more fun human being than I am. She's way more social and bubbly, and she just knows how to have a good time. And so it was really fun for me to have my mom there, and we definitely grew a lot closer while we were doing that. And it was fun that she got to meet like the friends that I was making while I was there, meet the other people on my sales team and stuff like that. So yeah, I was a door-to-door salesman. Random fact number 7. I have a pen pal who I have been writing to for going on 15 years now, which I think is really impressive and special. I just think that's really special. When I was about 13, I started posting my stories that I was writing on the internet on fictionpress.com. That was definitely my first experience with a writing community, and I loved that. So basically on Fiction Press, you post your stories and then other people can comment on them, and you post them chapter by chapter. And so it's fun because you get a social experience along with the writerly experience, and I got a lot of feedback on my writing that way. And one of the people who used to give me feedback on my stories, I started reading her stories as well, and I thought she was a phenomenal writer. I still think she is. And we started emailing each other, and we've been emailing ever since. So we became pen pals, and we have still never met in person, even though we've been writing to each other for 15 years. She's been there for me through all the hardest and the best parts of my life, and it seems like everybody should have that person who they can just write to about stuff. And her friendship is one of the greatest treasures of my life. I just love that we've been writing to each other since we were 13, and now here we are. I'm almost 28, and still have this pen pal, and I plan to continue writing to her until the day I die. Random fact number 8. I sing with my husband. Not a lot, mind you. So my husband is the real musician. I mean, we all know. What experience do I have? I just went to a barbershop singing camp. But my husband is a musician. He plays a lot of indie folk type music, and actually I use his original music almost exclusively for my channel. So his music is what you hear in my intro and conclusion of my videos, and then also the background music is his music that he plays. Several of you have already picked up on that, but anyone who hasn't, hey, there's a surprise for you. All the music you hear on my channel is my husband's music. With a few exceptions. Every once in a while I'll choose music for, from something else for background. But anyways, his voice still makes me melt like butter. So my husband and I have learned a few songs that we sing together, a very few. There's a small handful that I've learned how to sing with him. I am not a musician on the same level as him. My singing voice is really honestly not that good, especially lately. It's an instrument that is just out of tune. I used to sing a lot when I was in high school, but as I've gotten older, I feel like my voice has gotten weaker and I sing off key and, you know, my voice isn't that great, but I do really, really love to sing with him, and we actually sang at our wedding. His music is always linked below if you're ever curious or want to hear it. You can also hear me singing with him, but keep your expectations low because, again, I'm not that good. I sing off key sometimes, and the recordings that I have linked below, we recorded those on the living room floor of this apartment when we first got it. We recorded this just sitting on the carpet, and I was really nervous because I had never recorded anything before. I was nervous because I thought, oh my gosh, he is so good and he's gonna see how bad I am. But even though we'd already sung together in front of people a lot, being married to him, I've gotten more and more used to just singing in front of people, so now I just have no shame, and like, I don't even really care that my voice isn't that good because it's just fun to sing with him, and he can usually make me look better than I am, so it's okay. Random fact number 9. When I was in high school, I used to do competitive ballroom dance. I competed in the Viennese waltz, and my team always won. We were a formation team, so it wasn't like me and a partner competing with other people and their partners. It was my team competing against other formation teams. So that was really, really fun, and I still love ballroom dance. I don't do it that often. I'm getting really out of shape, so I don't know how good I'd be at it anymore, but I used to dance. Mostly it was like just swing and Viennese, but I also know cha-cha and tango. Dabbled in West Coast, but I'm not very good at it. Anyways, yeah, I really like to do ballroom dance. Okay, and then random fact number 10 will probably come as no surprise to you guys because y'all know how awkward I am. And hello, I went to a barbershop singing camp, but I was actually homeschooled, technically. I say high school when I talk about that area of my life because I wasn't actually homeschooled, like taught in my house. I attended a very, very small private school that was so small that I usually just called it a homeschool co-op when talking to other people, and I still do, because it was just a tiny, tiny school. My senior class was like 14 kids, I think, total, and my graduation class was 3, including myself. So it was a very tiny private school, but it was awesome. It was so small that I knew everybody in the whole school, and it was like a big family. But yeah, those are my 10 facts about me. Hopefully you found at least one of those somewhat amusing or interesting. I don't know. And yeah, Christy, thank you again so much for tagging me in this. And now I'm going to tag some people, and I don't know who's already been tagged in this, but I do know some people that I would really like to see do this tag. So if you've already been tagged, I'm sorry and ignore this, I guess. But I really want to see Marissa Mohi do this. And then also Alexa Dunn and Rebecca Rodriguez. So ladies, please, if you have not done this already, I would really like to see you guys do it. Otherwise, anybody else watching this, if you haven't been tagged in this and you really want to be, let me know in the comments below and we'll just say that I tagged you, because it's a tag that I saw going around and I thought it'd be so fun to do, but I felt uncomfortable being like, here, I'm gonna just tell you guys 10 things about me. No one asked me to, I'm just doing it. And so I figure maybe you guys feel that way too, and you would feel more comfortable if somebody actually tagged you. So consider yourselves tagged by me. I know a lot of people say that, and it's not the same as being tagged by name, but seriously, if you want to do this tag, let me know, and we'll just say that I tagged you, because, and you can say that in your video, Rayleigh Bradshaw tagged me by name, even though I didn't say your name. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!
Would you come and take a walk with me? We'll cross over the mountains, and we'll reach the pale blue sea. I love so glad you love me too. And I